Chapter 81 Found the Right Place. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boss Wang, all the zombies have been lured away. After a while, Li Yuchan didn't see any zombies at the stairs anymore, and then turned around and called softly. When Wang Mingyang heard this, he controlled the symbol to violently collide twice, and then quickly took it back. The four people gathered in front of the door. Wang Mingyang opened the door and glanced at the stairs. Let's go now. Wang Mingyang rushed out immediately and quickly ran to the stairs. Several zombies with severed arms and legs were still struggling on the ground, and Wang Mingyang casually killed them with MOing. The four of them quickly walked up the stairs, killing some zombies that could not stand up along the way. In view of their previous experience in the girls' dormitory, they are no longer very interested in the lower floors. Climbing all the way, the four of them soon reached the fourth floor. Su Yu, Mu Ningxue, you two check the fourth floor. Lei Bao and I will go to the fifth floor. We will bring them to the stairs to meet up later. Wang Mingyang quickly issued an order. There were students from the School of Life Sciences here, and he wanted to find as many students as possible. Okay. The two women nodded in unison and began to put on the ice shield in unison. Be careful, there should be awakened ones among these people. Wang Mingyang turned around and went upstairs with Li Yuchan. After thinking about it, he reminded him. Yeah, we understand. Su Yu and Mu Ningxue got ready and walked towards the dormitory with horizontal knives in hand. Wang Mingyang climbed to the fifth floor and started knocking on the door, one on the left and the other on the right. Soon, Wang Mingyang found a boy with a panicked face in a dormitory near the stairs. Which college are you from? Do you know where the students from the College of Life Sciences live? Wang Mingyang glanced at the dormitory, and the suitcases stacked at the door were scattered all over the floor. I am from the School of Life Science. The boy in casual clothes was startled and said timidly. Oh. Looks like we found the right place. Wang Mingyang smiled slightly, finally finding a target. Do all the people in your college live on this floor? The fourth to sixth floors of this building are all boys from our college. The boy glanced at the horizontal knife in Wang Mingyang's hand and whispered. You stay here first and don't close the door. I will find other survivors and ask them to come here later. Wang Mingyang pondered for a moment. Since the fourth, fifth and sixth floors are all students of the School of Life Sciences, it would be more convenient to gather everyone on the fifth floor. Regardless of whether the boy answered or not, Wang Mingyang turned around and walked out of the dormitory, and continued to open the door and call for someone. If you find a zombie, kill him. If you find a survivor, take him out and let them gather in the boys' dormitory. Soon, a dozen surviving boys gathered on this floor. Wang Mingyang and Li Yuchan looked at these haggard and frightened boys and shook their heads. Bao Bao, go and call Su Yu and the others and bring them up. I'll go to the sixth floor to take a look. The two acted separately, and Wang Mingyang quickly climbed to the sixth floor. After a while, Wang Mingyang came down with 7 or 8 boys. Li Yuchan, Su Yu and Mu Ningxue were standing in the corridor, and the room was packed with about 20 boys. Wang Mingyang frowned when he saw this situation, and then said to Li Yuchan. Bao Bao, please use your telekinesis to clean up the aisle. It's too crowded. When Li Yuchan heard this, he silently raised his middle finger, but he still used his telekinesis to clean up the stairs and nearby corridors, and threw the corpses into the empty dormitory. Okay, come here, I want to ask you something. Wang Mingyang turned on 2 flashlights, placed them on the stairs, and sat down on the steps. All the student survivors came over in confusion, looking a little at a loss. First question, do you know where the Biological Research Laboratory of Yunnan University is? Wang Mingyang asked the question he was most concerned about. All the students looked at each other, and finally several boys raised their hands, and a few whispered I know. You tell me. Wang Mingyang pointed to a boy wearing a white shirt. The white shirt swallowed and said. Our college has a laboratory building, and our college's research laboratories are all there. Oh, do you know what specific research projects are there? This question seemed a bit out of line, and all the boys shook their heads. Only the man in the white shirt looked at Wang Mingyang with a puzzled face. Do you know something? Wang Mingyang turned to look at him. Well, I know a little bit, but there are too many research projects there. I don't know what you are specifically looking for. The white shirt nodded, looking calm. I don't know much about the specific project. It should be research on animal brains or IQ or something. Wang Mingyang pondered for a while and said slowly. Well, I know there is a research laboratory with related animal research. The white shirt thought for a while, raised his head and said. Oh, how do you know so well? Seeing his answer, Wang Mingyang became a little confused. I just entered graduate school, and my supervisor was doing research in this area, so. The white shirt smiled slightly and said calmly. You're still a top student. What's your name? Dai Bin. A senior majoring in biotechnology. Okay, Dai Bin, it's up to you, lead the way with us tomorrow. How about it? Wang Mingyang's eyes lit up and he said with a smile. Dai Bin hesitated for a moment, looking at Wang Mingyang with a hint of vigilance in his eyes. Then he felt the irresistible smile on Wang Mingyang's face. Okay. I'll go with you. Dai Bin didn't dare to hesitate any longer and nodded in response. Wang Mingyang nodded with satisfaction, then glanced around and continued. Do you have anything else to add? The boys shook their heads, and even the boys who raised their hands and spoke just now were silent. It seems that Dai Bin is indeed the one who knows the most among these boys. Then, the second question, has anyone among you awakened superpowers? Wang Mingyang's second question made these boys stunned. Some people's dormitories are facing the supermarket, so they must not see the previous battle between Wang Mingyang and others. Some people saw part of it and had already guessed it in their hearts, however, without knowing Wang Mingyang's purpose. Even if someone awakened superpowers, they would not easily expose it. Sure enough, after a while, no one answered. Wang Mingyang laughed, and with a thought, several silver beads flew into the air, quickly melted and deformed, and finally formed 3 flying swords that shuttled back and forth above his head. 20 or so boys were all stunned, with shock and envy in their eyes. I have no ill will towards you, but I am just curious. Among all of you, have anyone awakened superpowers? At this moment, Wang Mingyang had a kind face, but his eyes were carefully observing these survivors. I awakened the fire power. A thin boy raised his right hand after hesitating for a long time. Chapter 82. Add some intelligence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing this, several students around him immediately stepped aside, exposing the boy. Oh. What's your name? Tell me, what kind of fire power does it have? Wang Mingyang's eyes lit up and he asked hurriedly. My name is Tianlei, and I can release a chain of fire. As Tianlei spoke, a flame burst out from the palm of his hand. The flame quickly twisted and deformed, forming a winding chain of flames. The boys around him exclaimed an exclamation, and the high temperature of the fire chain forced the boys around him to step back. Well, that's pretty good. Is there anyone else who has awakened his powers? Wang Mingyang nodded and signaled Tianlei to put away his powers. This ability should be a sea-level fire power, fiery chain. The lethality is insufficient, but it comes with some control. After increasing the strength, the number of chains can be increased, and the combat power is not bad. I awakened the power of speed. My arm strength has become much stronger. It must have awakened, right? My eyesight has been enhanced. I can see farther and have night vision. I seem to be able to control water. With Tianlei as an example, for boys raised their hands in a row, Wang Mingyang asked these people to show them one by one. Unfortunately, the grades were not high. The highest grade was Tianlei's sea-level blazing chain, the others are basically D-level. The one with enhanced strength cannot even compare to Zhao Ding, and is only an E-level. It is now the 5th night of the apocalypse. Among the more than 20 survivors, there are actually 5 awakened ones, although it is not known if anyone is still hiding, but this probability is already very good. But for now, it seems that these people are of little use to him. Likewise, there is no threat. Wang Mingyang was a little disappointed when he didn't find any high-level abilities. But this is also reasonable. Superpowers above level B are relatively powerful, and there are not many people who can awaken such superpowers, can meet 3A-level awakeners. Suyu, Mu Ningxue, and Li Yuchan. Wang Mingyang already felt that the halo of the protagonist was added to him. After dismissing all the students, Wang Mingyang pointed to an unmanned dormitory that had been opened before. Dai Bin, you can have a good rest here tonight. I will call you early tomorrow morning. Wang Mingyang took out 2 packages of food and a bottle of mineral water from his bag and threw them to Dai Bin, who was a little overwhelmed. If you want a horse to run, you have to give it some grass. Wang Mingyang is not one of those evil capitalists. Next, they needed Dai Bin to show them the way, so Wang Mingyang also gave them some grass without hesitation. Thanks. Dai Bin reached out to take the food and water, and held it tightly in his arms. After a few days, he had already finished all the stock in the dormitory, and these things made his eyes glow green. The slight uneasiness that Wang Mingyang had before being forcibly recruited suddenly disappeared. Turning around and walking into the dormitory opened by Wang Mingyang, Dai Bin couldn't wait to tear open the package, put a piece of bread into his mouth and chewed it. Brother Mingyang, do we want to stay here for one night? Seeing the door closed, Suyu stepped forward and asked. Well, it's already dark. It's not a good time to go out. Let's stay one night first. We'll set off early tomorrow morning. Wang Mingyang nodded, put away the flashlight, patted his butt and stood up from the steps. With the 3 of them, he found a relatively clean dormitory and threw the killed zombies downstairs. Wang Mingyang used his strength to jump onto a bed, stretched out and lay down. The 3 of them didn't hesitate when they saw this. They each found a bed and jumped on it. Suyu and Mu Ningxue began to practice their powers as a habit, while Li Yuchan looked at them curiously. Wang Mingyang hung the flashlight on the bedside and took out the flatland from his bag. He had not read this book yet. Rubbing the book in his hand, Wang Mingyang pondered for a while and then stuffed the book back. With his eyes closed and searching the system library in his mind, Wang Mingyang felt that he should change his mind. Now he already has A-level metal control, A-level mustard space, S-level space cutting. These 3 abilities should be enough to deal with the coming battle. Therefore, it is time to extract some abilities to strengthen yourself. Speed reading, deep reading, practical reading guide. Wang Mingyang searched the library for books on improving reading speed and comprehension. In his previous reading experiences, he found that his brain was completely insufficient. Those advanced knowledge points without basic support are as difficult to understand as a Bible. Since the Zhutian Reading System can extract supernatural powers, maybe these books can add some buff to him. Just this one, I hope it can add some intelligence. Wang Mingyang finally selected a book and issued instructions in his mind. The present book Practical Reading Guide, deducting 10 reading points, the host's current reading value, 6,611 points. A book quickly materialized in Wang Mingyang's hands. With the light of the flashlight, Wang Mingyang started reading mode. Hey, let me tell you, don't you forget to study at this time. Li Yuchan looked up and saw Wang Mingyang holding a book and chewing on the bed next door, and said in surprise. Wang Mingyang rolled his eyes and was too lazy to pay attention to him. Don't bother Brother Mingyang, he's so good. When Suyu heard this, he stared at the changing shape of the dark flame in his hand without raising his head, and said softly. No, is he so studious? Why did I meet him in the library? Li Yuchan was surprised, but when he turned around, he saw Suyu and Mu Ningxue, who had not rested, and were still fiddling with their superpowers. What are you doing? Exercise. Brother Mingyang said that we must constantly hone our superpowers to become stronger. Suyu replied as if it was a matter of course. Is this useful? Superpowers are not fixed. Nonsense, you know that practice makes perfect, right? Mu Ningxue rolled her eyes, and the ice cone in her hand continued to compress, and the color became more and more blue. I understand. Li Yuchan touched his nose, feeling that he seemed to do something, otherwise he would seem a little out of place. Hey, Boss Wang, how should I exercise? After thinking for a while, Li Yuchan didn't find any clues, so he simply asked Wang Mingyang. Your ability is mental power, so you need to focus on training your mental power. You can try to control heavy objects with mental power, and hold on until your mental power is exhausted, so as to exercise the toughness and strength of mental power. Wang Mingyang raised his head, thought for a while and said, "This method is relatively simple, but it is still practical for now. After all, Li Yuchan has just awakened and his strength is not high, so he just needs to lay a good foundation now. The inspiration and experience he got from Taoist classics in his previous life are not very applicable for now. Is this okay? I'll try." Li Yuchan thought about it and felt that it made some sense. Looking around the room, there were no heavy objects. At this time, the roars of the zombies around came to his ears. Li Yuchan's eyes lit up, and he immediately jumped out of bed and ran to the balcony. Gently opening the window, Li Yuchan looked down. Under the hazy moonlight, the dense zombies had gradually dispersed because of the disappearance of the sound of the iron cymbals. Li Yuchan stared at the zombies closest to the dormitory building, and his mind moved, and his mental power burst out. A zombie floated up from the downstairs in an instant, and stopped 6 or 7 meters above the ground. The zombie danced in the air and roared continuously, but could not break free from this invisible force. Li Yuchan narrowed his eyes slightly, feeling no pressure, and then controlled another zombie to float up. Li Yuchan stopped until there were 10 ghosts outside the window at the same time. Now he needs to control the bodies of 10 zombies at the same time and support their weight at the same time. This is much more difficult than simply moving a car. After all, a car will not move randomly. Although he couldn't see what Li Yuchan was doing, Wang Mingyang could guess a thing or two by seeing him standing on the balcony. He smiled slightly and continued to study hard. Chapter 83 System, quickly absorb this duck paw for me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Until late at night, Li Yuchan finally couldn't hold on any longer, and one by one the piao fell in midair. Damn! My head hurts so much. Wang Mingyang, are you trying to trick me? Li Yuchan rubbed his temples, cursed and returned to the bed, breathing heavily and lay down. This is normal. Anyone whose body is squeezed dry will have to feel uncomfortable for a while, that Wang Mingyang replied without raising his head. Cut. Li Yuchan raised his middle finger, rubbed his aching head, and fell asleep soon after. Fortunately, what he had been drained of was his mental strength, and the best way to recover was to have a good sleep. If what is being squeezed out is something else, it would be really difficult to deal with it if the conditions are so bad now. It was detected that the host was reading the practical reading guide for the first time, and the fragments of the sea-level ability, swift thinking, were extracted +2, and the speed of thinking was, February 5th. Bonus reading value, 500 points. The host's current reading value, 7,111 points. Wang Mingyang finished reading the last page, and the system prompts in his mind came as expected. Sea-level superpower. Wang Mingyang's eyes lit up, even though his rank was not high, but this ability seems to have some tricks. However, it has not been synthesized yet, and he cannot see the ability analysis for the time being. Judging from the name, it should be a power that is somewhat helpful for reading efficiency. Come on, keep going. After closing his eyes and thinking about what he had read, Wang Mingyang felt enlightened and opened the practical reading guide again. It wasn't until 4 o'clock in the morning that Wang Mingyang finally breathed a sigh of relief and slowly closed the book. It was detected that the host was familiar with the practical reading guide, and the fragment of the sea-level ability, swift thinking, was extracted +1, the speed of thinking, 5 out of 5. Bonus reading value, 50 points. The host's current reading value, 7,211 points. Finally enough, luckily it's a sea-level power, otherwise I wouldn't be able to get it tonight. System, synthesize the power of quick thinking, synthesize the sea-level ability, quick thinking. The synthesis is successful, and 1,000 reading points will be deducted. Host's current reading value, 6,211 points. I'll go. I lost 400 reading points by synthesizing this ability. Wang Mingyang quickly checked the analysis of the power. What is this quick thinking power that caused him to lose money? Swift thinking, strengthening abilities can greatly improve the host's ability to think quickly and understand knowledge. Quack, quack, isn't this the ability of a scumbag to cheat? Wang Mingyang seems to have seen himself become a top student. Suddenly he smiled like a little yellow duck. Sure enough, in this way, facing the bitter sea of knowledge, I feel like I am wearing a duck's paw. Wang Mingyang's originally sleepy eyes immediately lit up. System, quickly absorb this duck paw for me. Ah. It's not, absorbing the quick thinking power, that a familiar feeling came over, and Wang Mingyang instantly felt his mind became much clearer, buff added. For example, intelligence plus 10, however, feeling the changes in his body, Wang Mingyang frowned. Absorbing this sea-level power did not increase his physical strength much. If converted into data, it is only less than 1/10 of Wang Mingyang's current physical fitness. From this point of view, as his strength increases, the effect of absorbing superpowers to strengthen his body will only become worse and worse. This situation made the idea that I could absorb a large amount of supernatural powers and become physically invincible come to naught. What a pity. Wang Mingyang sighed. This road seemed a bit difficult. But compared to other awakened people, Wang Mingyang's physical fitness still has the potential to be infinitely enhanced. However, in order to reach that kind of physical invincibility, the number of supernatural powers that need to be absorbed will probably be an astronomical number. This is normal, even with the super plug-in Zhutian Reading System. Wang Mingyang doesn't think he can achieve success overnight. Now that I have absorbed the quick thinking, I might as well try to read some more. And maybe extract some books about enhancement or transformation abilities. Turning off the flashlight, Wang Mingyang forced himself to fall asleep as soon as possible with excitement. Most of the mental energy and energy are consumed during the day, so it is necessary to recharge and recharge. Tomorrow morning he would rush to the School of Life Sciences to answer the questions that had been lingering in his mind for the past few days. There is also one thing that cannot be missed in memory. Early morning on the 6th day of the end of the world, a ray of sunlight shone into the dormitory. Suyu slowly opened his eyes, and saw a yellowish-white ceiling. Slowly sitting up and looking around, Suyu seemed to remember that he was now in the apocalypse. This is the male dormitory of Yunnan University. After a moment of silence, Suyu shook his head and stretched, his beautiful body forming a seductive arc. Sister Shui, wake up. Suyu turned around and pushed Mu Ningxue on the other bed and shouted softly. Mu Ningxue, who was sleeping deeply, frowned. When Suyu pushed her, she suddenly opened her eyes and sat up. After looking around, she realized that it was Suyu who woke her up. She couldn't help but let out a long breath and pinched her eyebrows. It seemed that she didn't sleep well last night. Sister Shui, are you having a nightmare? Suyu looked at Mu Ningxue with some worry and asked softly. No, I'm just not used to it and didn't sleep well. Mu Ningxue shook her head and gave Suyu a somewhat forced smile. In fact, she dreamed of something bad. Fortunately, it was just a dream. Well, let's get up first. I wonder if there is no water in this dormitory. Suyu nodded. She could see that Mu Ningxue's face was not good, but as an adult, if you don't say it, it would be a bit inappropriate for me to ask again. Okay, I want to wash my face too. Let's go and see first. Mu Ningxue moved her body, trying not to make any sound. Wang Mingyang and Li Yuchan seemed to be still sleeping soundly. The two girls got out of bed carefully and walked to the bathroom lightly. Wang Mingyang suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were unusually clear. With a sigh of relief, Wang Mingyang slowly sat up, raised his hands and stretched. With a smile on his lips, he turned around and slapped Li Yuchan in the next bed. Get up, zombies are coming. Li Yuchan sat up suddenly after being slapped in the face, and shook his head repeatedly with sleepy eyes. Where? 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 Where are the zombies? Damn, you sleep like a dead pig. If there were zombies, you would have been eaten long ago. Wang Mingyang jumped down holding the edge of the bed and moved his body. He hadn't slept on this hard bed for a long time, and he was really a little uncomfortable. Fuck. I was dreaming of reading the palm of a beautiful woman, but she slapped me. It turned out to be you, a scumbag. Li Yuchan rubbed his slightly painful cheek and cursed indignantly. Fortunately it was a slap. If it was a bloody mouth, you would be scared to death. Wang Mingyang looked at him with contempt. This guy is really a sultry type. The water supply in the dormitory is cut off. Suyu and Mu Ningxue heard the noise and walked out of the bathroom, saying a little disappointedly. There are still a few bottles of mineral water in the bag. Take out 2 bottles and wash your face to wake yourself up. Wang Mingyang waved his hand nonchalantly, not feeling distressed at all. This, mineral water is too wasteful. In this situation, we don't even have enough to drink, how can we use it to wash our faces? Mu Ningxue frowned and retorted. It's not that she didn't want to wash, but she really felt that drinking water should not be wasted. It doesn't matter. We'll find a safe place to make a base in 2 days, and then go out to collect supplies. We will definitely not be short of water by then. Wang Mingyang smiled slightly, reached out and took out 2 bottles of water from Li Yuchan's backpack, and threw them to Su Yu and Mu Ningxue. Chapter 84, Robbing the Wicked of Their Wealth to Help Your Own Poverty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Everyone washed up with mineral water. If there is no condition, forget it. If there is condition, the habits of peacetime are not easy to discard. Wang Mingyang has planned that after the matter of Yunnan University is dealt with, he will take a few people to another place, then he will start hunting zombies and mutants to obtain crystal cores to improve his strength. At that time, he will use the mustard space to collect some supplies. There is a saying, others hoard food, I hoard guns. In the end times, as long as you have strength, are you still afraid of not having supplies? The main point is a take-it-and-use-it approach. Well, although Wang Mingyang is not a good person, but at least he is not a bad person. In this end times, order collapses and morality is degraded. On the contrary, many scum can live well, because they have no bottom line, pure egoism. With Wang Mingyang's strength, it will not be difficult to rob the rich and help the poor. Rob the wealth of the evil and help your own poverty, this is very reasonable. All human struggles are derived from interests. In the end times, the most fundamental interest is survival. The reliance of survival is strength, so, what's the point of collecting more supplies now? Without strength, you can't even keep a grain of rice. Since Wang Mingyang got the Zhutian Reading System, the first thing he thought of was how to get a powerful ability first to ensure his early advantage. Rather than using the advantage of rebirth to hoard supplies, he has experienced too much suffering from low strength. The 4 of them rested for a while, then opened the door and walked out. Wang Mingyang knocked on the door of the dormitory where Dai Bin was. Dai Bin's eyes were full of bloodshot, as if he hadn't slept last night, but he was still in good spirits. Let's go, let's go. Okay. Wang Mingyang turned and walked towards the stairs. Dai Bin took a deep breath and stepped out of the door. The 5 people walked straight out, and Wang Mingyang and the other 4 protected Dai Bin in the middle. Several doors were opened in the corridor one after another, and several boys poked their heads out. After hesitating for a long time, Tian Lei, who had awakened the sea-level superpower blazing fire chain, walked out of the room. Brother, can we follow you? Wang Mingyang paused and chuckled. No. Why? I have also awakened superpowers, I can help you. Brother, let us follow you. Yes, yes. There is strength in numbers, we have also awakened superpowers. I am very fast, I killed a zombie before. Tian Lei said anxiously, and the other boys who had awakened superpowers did not seem to leave the 5th floor last night. At this time, they all walked out with hope on their faces. Because, I don't need. Wang Mingyang turned around with a calm face. This. The boys looked at each other, not knowing what to say. You are all college students, your IQ must be no problem. Since you have awakened superpowers, use your abilities to struggle for survival. After Wang Mingyang finished speaking, he turned around and walked down the stairs without looking back. He won't take these college students with him, but it doesn't stop him from giving them some pointers, just as a good relationship. Who knows if any of these people will achieve something in the future? Even if someone hasn't awakened their superpowers yet, who can guarantee that they won't become stronger in the future? In the end times, in addition to disasters, there are also various opportunities. There are 50 great ways, 49 heavenly evolutions, and one escapes. Everything is possible. Wang Mingyang and his friends really left, and Tian Lei and other boys looked at each other, feeling a little discouraged and hesitant. This big brother is right, we can't just sit and wait for death. Since we have awakened our superpowers, we can't just stay in the dormitory like this. Tian Lei watched Wang Mingyang and his friends disappear at the stairs, his eyes struggling constantly, and finally gritted his teeth. His eyes became firm. Tianlei, what do you say we should do? That the boy who awakened the superpower of speed walked to Tianlei's side, in Wang Mingyang's mouth. Only Tianlei received the evaluation of pretty good, and the abilities of the other people were not commented on. These people also tacitly agreed that Tianlei was the strongest. My ability has a control effect, Zhuo Wenguang's ability is speed, Yao Zhi's ability is strength amplification, and Lu Hui's ability is farsightedness and night vision. Tianlei pointed at the people who had awakened their abilities one by one, and his fingers suddenly paused. Who has awakened the ability to control water? It's me. It's me. A short-haired man raised his hand. Oh, Li Xiang, I know. Tianlei nodded. Including himself, there were a total of 5 awakened people with abilities. Li Xiang and I can take the main control and make 2 knives for Zhuo Wenguang and Yao Zhi to attack. Lu Hui, you are mainly responsible for reconnaissance. In this way, we can try to fight a small number of zombies first. Tianlei pondered for a few seconds and told his plan, which was very similar to the match in the game. I think it's okay, what about you? Lu Hui, who had awakened the ability to enhance vision, nodded and said. I have no problem. Li Xiang nodded. Tianlei looked at Zhuo Wenguang and Yao Zhi. At present, apart from himself, the abilities of these 2 people are more suitable for the main attack, but they need their consent. Okay. Let's do it. Zhuo Wenguang was silent for a while, nodded and said. Okay, let's fight. Seeing that everyone agreed, Yao Zhi thought about it and nodded. Then, consensus reached. Tianlei stretched out his right palm and looked at the few people. 4 palms were put up one after another, and the 5-person team was declared established. What should we do then? Some of the other students who had not awakened their superpowers asked in a low voice. Those who are brave can go with us to kill zombies and find food. Those who are not brave, just pray for good luck. Tianlei glanced around and said calmly. A group of boys whispered, and then 4 more boys chose to join. As for the other boys, Tianlei could only shake his head and ignore them. The team was established, and Tianlei led a few people to quickly collect supplies in the empty dormitory. Fortunately, the zombies on these floors were cleaned up by Wang Mingyang and his friends last night. They can now search boldly. Wang Mingyang and his friends quickly walked to the first floor. After a whole night, the gathered zombies had dispersed a lot. However, there were still many zombies at the gate. Wang Mingyang chose the dormitory on the other side and jumped out of the balcony window with a few people. After quietly cleaning up the zombies under the window, several people protected Dai Bin, who had no fighting power, and quickly ran towards the School of Life Sciences. Wang Mingyang had seen the signboard and had already planned the route to that place in his mind. At this moment, there was no need for Dai Bin to point the way. Several people walked and stopped along the way, following the woods beside the wall of the university, and walked straight to a small hillside. The tallest building over there is the laboratory building of the School of Life Sciences. Dai Bin stood beside Wang Mingyang and pointed to a building in the distance. Wang Mingyang nodded. The location Dai Bin pointed to was similar to that shown on the signboard. However, there are several teaching buildings over there, and there must be a lot of zombies. Is there a lot of people in the laboratory building on weekends? Wang Mingyang asked. Not many. If it is during weekdays, there will be more people if there are experimental courses. On weekends, usually only professors and graduate students from various research laboratories will be there. Dai Bin shook his head. That's good. We'll go around this way later. Wang Mingyang pointed to a forest at the bottom of the slope. There was a passage in the forest that connected to the south gate of Yunnan University and went east to the laboratory building. Everyone nodded, and then, under the leadership of Wang Mingyang, they moved towards the laboratory building. Chapter 85 Neurons, Brains, Mice. You are listening at novelfold.audio. A 6-story building rose from the ground. This laboratory building is made of red tiles and white paint. It is simple and generous, and the overall solemnity and grandeur, the rooftop terrace is actually blooming with lush wisteria flowers, which hang down from the walls on both sides, adding a lot of quaint and elegant atmosphere to this laboratory building. Wang Mingyang and the other 5 people followed the woods all the way downstairs. Through the glass windows, they could see some zombies in white coats wandering in the laboratory. Several laboratories seem to have chemical reactions caused by zombies, burning black. "Where is your mentor's laboratory?" Wang Mingyang looked at the laboratory building in front of him and asked with a frown. "In the 315 research room on the 3rd floor at the back." "Then let's go around." After determining the target, Wang Mingyang asked several people to prepare for the battle. There were obviously more zombies here. Wang Mingyang and Li Yuchan were surrounded by swords flying around them, surrounded by ice shields, and a layer of frost spread from Mu Ningxue's feet. The horizontal sword in Su Yu's hand was wrapped in dark red flames. This was the first time that Dai Bin saw other people's superpowers being displayed, and he was stunned. Wang Mingyang glanced at him, and casually attracted several sections of the fence nearby, melted them into a thin shield and handed them over. "Hold the shield, be careful." "Oh, okay." Dai Bin quickly took the shield, which was slightly heavy in his hand and had a moderate weight. "Let's go." Wang Mingyang took the lead and ran forward, crouching and going around the corner of the laboratory building. When he got to the side, Wang Mingyang suddenly found that there were many corpses in white coats lying on the ground, but these corpses looked strangely withered. All of them were mummies. Raising his eyebrows slightly, Wang Mingyang looked around, but did not find anything strange. There were zombies around him, so Wang Mingyang had to temporarily put aside his doubts and move forward again, killing zombies along the way. Several people touched the back door stairs without any danger. Climbing up the stairs, they soon reached the 3rd floor. Wang Mingyang looked out into the corridor, frowning slightly. A zombie wearing a white coat, lying on his hands and feet, was facing away from them. First-level zombie hunter. "Hunter? There are first-level zombies here?" Mu Ningxue asked in a low voice. "Yes, there is a hunter. Everyone be careful, there may be other first-level zombies here." Wang Mingyang nodded. He had encountered ordinary zombies in the past 2 days. Unexpectedly, he encountered a first-level zombie in this small experimental building. "What is a hunter? What is a first-level zombie?" Li Yuchan obviously had never seen this kind of zombie after the promotion, and looked puzzled. "You will know in a while. Use your mental power for protection," Wang Mingyang said casually, raised his horizontal sword Moing, and jumped out in a flash. Hiss! The hunter seemed to sense the danger, and rushed forward in an instant, and his sharp claws left several scratches on the ground. "Huh!" Wang Mingyang slashed at the air with his sword, and the hunter's reaction speed was a little beyond his expectations. Stepping forward again, the ink shadow followed the figure, turning into a residual shadow and flicking upward. The hunter turned around and grabbed, but the sharp nails were directly cut off by the horizontal sword, and a part of the arm flew up. Without waiting for the hunter to retreat, a flying sword went straight from top to bottom and pierced its head. Instant kill. The flying sword fiddled with the hunter's head for a few times, but did not find the possible crystal core. Wang Mingyang curled his lips speechlessly, made a knife flower, shook off the dirty blood on the blade, and wiped the dirty blood on the flying sword on his white coat. The people behind him ran over, and Li Yuchan looked at the remains of the hunter on the ground with curiosity, curling his lips. "That's it? Seeing you guys so cautious, I thought you were so strong. You don't understand this. This hunter is good at sneak attacks, and its frontal combat power is not too strong." Wang Mingyang smiled slightly, identified the direction, and walked straight to the destination. There were not many zombies in the corridor, but the movement here also attracted nearby zombies. A series of roars came, and Wang Mingyang and his team cleaned up these ordinary zombies with ease. "The one in front is room 315. Dai Bin covered his mouth and pointed to the laboratory in front with difficulty with his shield. "Quick, let's go in first. Mu Ningxue, make 2 ice walls to block the corridor." Wang Mingyang chopped down a zombie casually, and more than 10 flying swords shuttled back and forth, clearing all the zombies in front. Everyone quickly passed through the corpses on the ground, and Wang Mingyang ran to the door, and the metal ability directly broke the door lock violently. Mu Ningxue stood at the door, with her hands spread out to both sides. A half-meter thick ice wall quickly condensed in a corridor, directly blocking the many zombies that followed. After Mu Ningxue entered the house, Wang Mingyang quickly closed the door, and the metal ability was activated again, directly locking the door. What came into view was a huge research room, with various bottles and jars displayed on the laboratory table. On a wall in the corner, a row of cabinets with a very high-tech feel stood, and the brains of various creatures were placed in bottles. Various experimental instruments that Wang Mingyang could not understand at all were displayed in this laboratory. But there was no living person or zombie inside. "Isn't your tutor here?" Wang Mingyang looked at Dai Bin in confusion. There are no experimental tasks on the weekend, and the tutor probably didn't come." Dai Bin scratched his head. "What topic are you studying here?" "The instructor didn't tell me the specific topic. All I did was help cultivate some neuronal cells." There was a trace of hesitation on Dai Bin's face, pointing to various petri dishes on a test table in the corner. "Although he has just been admitted to graduate school, he is already very good, but if you want to directly participate in your mentor's cutting-edge experiments, you are still not qualified." "What are you doing cultivating neuronal cells?" Wang Mingyang wondered what these scientists were thinking, and he was a little confused. "Neuron cells mainly exist in the brain, spinal cord and nerves. I don't know exactly what it is used for. It's just that there are more tutors in need, so I was specifically asked to be responsible for training. I guess it is related to some kind of brain research." Dai Bin was also confused. This kind of experimental preparation was normal, but there were too many research directions. "Does your tutor have other research laboratories?" "There should be. It is said that there is a very secret underground research room under this building." "Do you know where it is?" "I don't know about this anymore. I'm not qualified to have access to it, but I overheard this bit of information once when my supervisor was chatting with another professor." Dai Bin spread his hands. Wang Mingyang scratched his head. There was obviously no answer he wanted here, but it felt like there was some message he was missing. Scanning the surroundings, Wang Mingyang frowned and paced back and forth. Several other people also looked puzzled, their eyes following Wang Mingyang back and forth. His eyes swept across a glass frame with several white mice lying inside. His eyes once again glanced at the various brains in the rows of bottles and jars, as well as the petri dish Dai Bin pointed to in the corner. A flash of lightning suddenly flashed across Wang Mingyang's mind. Neuron cells. Brain, spinal cord, nerves. Brain flower. Mouse. A black-skinned mouse suddenly appeared in his mind. It's the second-order mutant rat king. Dai Bin, when you conduct experiments, in addition to white mice, will you use the black or gray mouse? Wang Mingyang's throat moved, and he asked in a somewhat difficult tone with his back to everyone. "Well, I don't usually use it, but my instructor asked me to catch a few mice some time ago." Dai Bin recalled that he was still very surprised at the time. There was no shortage of white mice, so why would he catch such wild mice? "Call." Wang Mingyang breathed a long sigh of relief, and had some kind of suspicion in his heart. After rubbing his cheeks to calm down his restless mood, Wang Mingyang turned around and looked at Dai Bin. "Dai Bin. There should be a research laboratory for ancient plants in this building, right? Window, _tabula equals window, _tabula, _tabula. Push, mode, thumbs, feed, 01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target _type, mix." Chapter 86 Wisteria Blossoms. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ancient plants. Dai Bin was stunned. He was not used to the jumping thinking of this young man who was about his age. "Yes. I remember that a year ago, some ancient lotus seeds were sent to Yunnan University for research," Wang Mingyang said calmly. This information was once on the headlines of Yunnan province news, so, he said it directly. "Oh, you are talking about this. It is true, but Yunnan University only got 5 ancient lotus seeds at that time, and the other 15 were all in the Forestry University." Dai Bin suddenly realized that many people in Yunnan University knew about this matter at that time, and he had heard about it. "Do you know where these lotus seeds are?" Wang Mingyang's eyes were happy. I don't know the details, but there are several ancient plant research laboratories here, on the 6th floor. Dai Bin bowed his head and pondered for a while, but a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. 6th floor. Well, the rooftop was transformed into a garden by several professors, and there seems to be a big pond. Their research room is on the 6th floor. Okay, let's go up and take a look. Wang Mingyang didn't waste any words and turned to walk out the door. If he really found these lotus seeds, he would have to clean up the zombies in this building. Several people walked out, still protecting Dai Bin in the middle. Opening the door, the ice walls on both sides of the corridor still stood. More than 20 flying swords flew up around Wang Mingyang, ready to kill all the way up. Mu Ningxue waved and turned one side of the ice wall into an ice cone. And exploded, and the zombies gathered behind the ice wall were pierced one after another. Wang Mingyang followed closely behind, and the flying swords shuttled rapidly, and the heads of the zombies in white coats were pierced one by one. These former scientific researchers, the smart brains turned into red and white things splattering. There were corpses all over the way, and several people went straight to the 6th floor. Following the door plates, Wang Mingyang found several plant research laboratories. After searching for a while, no ancient lotus seeds or anything like that were found. Disappointed, Wang Mingyang could only place his hopes on the rooftop. Everyone rushed to the rooftop again, pushed open an iron door, and saw a gorgeous scene. There was an artificial pond in the middle of the rooftop, and there were actually a few lotus buds in it. Wang Mingyang was delighted to see that there were really lotuses here. He saw the vines all over the rooftop from the corner of his eye, but he frowned again. In the end times, the most terrifying plants are undoubtedly vine plants. Although the probability of plant mutation is not high, each mutated plant is a nightmare for other species, signaling everyone to stop. Wang Mingyang stood at the stairs and carefully observed the vines. There were many flower racks on the rooftop, and these vines climbed on them, blooming with dense purple flowers, forming a gorgeous and psychedelic scene. This is a very common wisteria flower. Those gorgeous purple flowers seem to emit a charming fragrance in the breeze. It is the end of May now, and it stands to reason that these wisteria flowers should have withered, but Wang Mingyang only saw that these wisteria flowers were all full of energy and bloomed extremely luxuriantly, with no signs of withering at all. The edges of the branches and leaves became serrated, and the vine branches were unusually thick, with a faint trace of blood in some branches. Following the vines to find the roots, a flower bed of several meters in radius was piled up in the corner, and a broken white coat could be vaguely seen mixed in the soil. The mummies found downstairs appeared in his mind, and Wang Mingyang had a bad premonition. Wang Mingyang's pupils shrank slightly, and this wisteria flower seemed to mutate, as if sensing the arrival of everyone. The wisteria branches and flowers all over the rooftop trembled faintly towards Wang Mingyang and the others in the breeze. Wang Mingyang finally confirmed that things were indeed developing in a bad direction. Step back. This wisteria has mutated. Looking at the pond surrounded by the wisteria in the center of the rooftop, Wang Mingyang's mouth twitched slightly. Walking down the stairs with a few people, Wang Mingyang sat on the steps, rubbing his eyebrows and thinking. According to some rumors in the previous life, Yunnan University had undergone some great changes at the end of the 7th day of the apocalypse. The most famous of them is the lotus cultivated from ancient lotus seeds. When the apocalypse came, the energy of heaven and earth was full, just like the legendary spiritual energy revival. These ancient lotus seeds underwent drastic changes in the spiritual energy explosion on the night of the 7th day of the apocalypse. They became the legendary spiritual objects of heaven and earth. The moment the lotus seeds matured, the spiritual light that soared into the sky illuminated the entire Yunnan University. This scene triggered a fight between many mutant creatures and awakeners. That night, violent collisions and fighting sounds resounded throughout the university town, but Wang Mingyang in his previous life was not qualified to participate at all. He could only see the beam of spiritual light rising into the sky from afar through the window of the rental house. Later, from other survivors, Wang Mingyang gradually learned what he had missed that night. In the early days of the apocalypse, the greatest opportunity was this kind of suddenly mature spiritual object. The most powerful protector of the shelter built by the Yunnan Provincial Army was a special forces soldier who had snatched some of the spiritual objects. To live again, this opportunity must be in my hands. Wang Mingyang secretly clenched his fists. Now no one knew that there was a spiritual object that was about to take shape here. this was his biggest advantage, and Linda had 15 ancient lotus seeds. I just don't know why, I didn't hear about the legend of the appearance of heaven and earth spirits in Forestry University in my previous life. This is why Wang Mingyang chose to come directly to Yunnan University. If it weren't for this, wouldn't it be better for him to stay at home and study hard, and absorb more high-level superpowers to strengthen himself? But no matter how many superpowers he has, they can't compare to the direct increase in strength of this kind of heaven and earth spirits. Thinking of this, Wang Mingyang decided that he would not go anywhere in the future. Just stay here and find a way to get rid of this mutant wisteria flower first. Lai Gabao, Su Yu, Mu Ningxue, let's clean up the zombies on the 6th floor first. Wang Mingyang stood up and looked at the few people. Are you sure? Brother Mingyang, are we going to stay here? The three looked at him. Mu Ningxue didn't say anything, but the doubt in her eyes had already shown everything. Well, I plan to stay here for 2 days and find something. Wang Mingyang nodded. He couldn't say the specific reason, but his words were full of determination. Okay, just treat it as training. Suyu smiled slightly. No matter what Wang Mingyang decided, she just needed to support him. Okay, you have the final say. Li Yuchan shrugged. He was already used to Wang Mingyang's unpredictable behavior. Dai Bin, let me take you back to the dormitory first. Wang Mingyang looked at Dai Bin and said calmly. Can I follow you? Dai Bin was stunned and a little at a loss. If he had to choose, he would definitely prefer to stay with Wang Mingyang and his friends. The 4 of them were all awakened, and their abilities were extremely powerful. While he was envious, he wanted to stay in this team all the time. No, there will be fierce battles later, and I can't protect you. Wang Mingyang found an excuse. The horse had just finished running, and he couldn't say it directly. Go away, don't think about eating grass. It doesn't matter, I can take care of myself, you don't have to worry about me. Dai Bin wanted to fight for it again, but Wang Mingyang still shook his head calmly. That indifferent look made him a little afraid to continue talking. After discussing everything, Su Yu and the other 2 went to clean up the zombies on the 6th floor, while Wang Mingyang took Dai Bin, who looked frustrated, and went straight downstairs. A silver-white steel wire was hung on the corridor on the 6th floor. Wang Mingyang activated his metal control ability and quickly slid down with Dai Bin. Soon they reached the corner of the 1st floor, and Wang Mingyang killed several zombies around them. Just as he was about to return with Dai Bin, a huge buzzing sound like a lawnmower came. Wang Mingyang looked in the direction of the sound and saw an armed helicopter flying rapidly towards this side. Chapter 87 Rescue is coming. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Half an hour ago, in a spacious office in the largest military region of Yunnan province, an old man in military uniform stood in front of the window, frowning as he looked at the busy soldiers outside the window. There were golden pine branches and a shining golden star on the old man's shoulders, and the cigarette between his fingers had burned a large butt, which had not fallen for a long time. Report to the chief. Gong Zhan of the Snow Owl Special Forces is here to report. A deep voice sounded, and a soldier in camouflage uniforms and fully armed stood at the door. Please come in. The old man turned around, walked to the table and pressed the cigarette butt in his hand into the ashtray. Yes. Gong Zhan stepped into the office, stood in front of the old man and saluted. Gong Zhan, are the teams ready? Report to the chief, the team has been reorganized. The Snow Owl Special Forces currently has 18 members, all ready to go. Gong Zhan replied in a sonorous and powerful voice, but there was unstoppable sadness in his eyes. The Special Forces originally had 5 teams, with a total of nearly 50 people. Now, there are only 18 left. Okay. The shelter has been built, and there are other teams defending the periphery. I need you to perform a special mission now. The old man nodded, stepped forward and patted Gong Zhan's shoulder. Please give instructions, Chief. The Snow Owl Special Forces will complete the mission. Gong Zhan's body shook, and he shouted with his feet together. Well, I believe you, but, just do your best, and if it's impossible, you must come back safely. The old man showed a trace of relief in his eyes, gently pinched Gong Zhan's shoulder, turned around and took out a few pieces of paper from the table and handed them to Gong Zhan. This is. Gong Zhan took the paper and looked down. These are several important scientific research experts. I need you to bring them back, if they are still alive. The old man's eyes were deep. It has been 5 days and 5 nights since the zombie outbreak, it is now the 6th day, and he doesn't know how many of these people in the information are still alive. The end of the world is coming, and the army suffered heavy losses. Many soldiers turned into zombies without warning, biting their close comrades, even several military district leaders were not spared. In the end, after everything was settled, only he, the political commissar of the military district, was left. In a few days, under his leadership, the zombies in the military district were cleared, and the remaining personnel of several nearby guard teams were gathered and incorporated. Initially, a temporary shelter was established with the military district as the center, and the surrounding people were gradually gathered and rescued. Yunnan province is a border province, and the troops are mainly stationed in border cities for defense. On the contrary, there are not many troops stationed in the provincial capital, Chuncheng. This is why the progress has been slow in the past few days, and it is not until now that we have freed up our hands to carry out rescue. Insufficient troops, insufficient firepower. I understand. Chief, if you have no other instructions, we will set off. Gong Zhan put away the information in his hand and solemnly put it in his chest pocket. Go. No matter what the result is, you must come back before nightfall. Yes. Comrade Chief, I promise to complete the mission. The old man saluted solemnly. Gong Zhan stood at attention, saluted, turned and walked out. After Gong Zhan left, the old man sighed slightly, and someone quickly came in to report. The bloodshot eyes became sharp again, and the old man quickly returned to the table to start working. It can be seen that this old man in his 60s has not closed his eyes for 5 days and 5 nights, still like a steel gun, standing in this office. The soldiers coming and going in the square can see the busy figure of the old man at a glance. This makes the iron-blooded soldiers who have experienced sudden changes more strong in their hearts. 3 helicopters quickly took off from the apron and quickly roared towards the city center. What Wang Mingyang saw when he looked up was one of the armed helicopters, frowning and shrinking into the corner. Wang Mingyang had actually expected the arrival of the soldiers, but I didn't expect it to be today. Brother, there is an armed helicopter, it must be soldiers coming to rescue us. Dai Bin also saw the camouflaged fuselage and shouted excitedly. It's coming, but it's hard to say whether it's to save you. Wang Mingyang said lightly, with just one plane, how many people can be saved? Look, look. The plane is flying towards us. Why is there only one? Dai Bin also reacted, there are so many survivors in the school, if they really want to save people, how could there be only one helicopter? The helicopter hovered in the air for a while, and finally chose to land on the roof of a teaching building near the experimental building. From the perspective of Wang Mingyang and others, they could only see the circling propellers of the plane slowly stop. Many zombies around were attracted by the huge sound and ran towards the teaching building. Brother, what should we do? Should we go find them? Dai Bin's eyes were full of hope. Compared with Wang Mingyang and others, he would definitely prefer to stay with the soldiers. Okay. I'll take you there. Wang Mingyang pondered for a moment. In the fight for the spiritual object that night in his previous life, there were soldiers present. It would be good to make contact in advance, just as a way to investigate the opponent's situation. Really? Dai Bin didn't expect Wang Mingyang to agree. He didn't have much hope at first. Get ready, let's go to the other side first, they will probably come over here. The helicopter hovered over the experimental building for a while. It seemed that because the roof of the building was covered with wisteria flowers, it was not suitable for landing, so it chose the rooftop of the nearby teaching building. Wang Mingyang estimated the distance and found that the target of these soldiers was most likely the experimental building. Several cables were suddenly thrown down from the side of the rooftop, and 6 heavily armed figures appeared on the side of the rooftop. Walk! Wang Mingyang's eyes lit up, and he quickly led Dai Bin towards the corner. The 6 soldiers descended from the rooftop neatly and silently avoided the group of corpses rushing towards the door of the teaching building. There was an explosion on the other side of the teaching building, and it seemed that the remaining soldiers threw a grenade over there. The violent explosion attracted a large number of zombies, and they rushed over there. the 6 soldiers quickly dropped to the corner. Set up their rifles and ran towards the laboratory building in a battle formation. Wang Mingyang quickly led Dai Bin to a laboratory. After cleaning up the zombies in the room, Dai Bin immediately ran to the window and looked at the soldiers. The 6 soldiers moved quickly running across a distance of several hundred meters. With silencers on their rifles, they cleanly killed the zombies blocking the way. This way. This way. There is someone here. Seeing that the soldiers had deviated from the direction, Dai Bin quickly opened the window and shouted anxiously. The leading soldier heard the sound, turned his head and looked over. Seeing that it was a living person, he immediately made a gesture, and the team quickly adjusted its direction. Soon the 6 people ran to the window. The leading soldier glanced inside the window and saw only the excited Dai Bin and Wang Mingyang sitting on the test table with an indifferent expression. Get up! The leading soldier quickly gave the order and he held up his rifle to cover. Several soldiers quickly climbed into the window and jumped out. Captain, come in quickly. Seeing everyone else entering the laboratory, the leading soldier stepped forward, jumped over the window and jumped in. Wang Mingyang was a little surprised when he saw this. This captain was a little different. Chapter 88 Just a Little Test. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After closing the window, the team leader crouched down and observed the situation outside. After confirming that only a few zombies were following, he slowly exhaled. He turned around and pointed the muzzle of the gun at the ground, looked at Dai Bin who looked excited, glanced at Wang Mingyang who was sitting leisurely on the experimental table, and frowned. Hello. I am Gong Zhan, the captain of the Snow Owl Special Forces. Who are you? Oh, hello, Captain, I am a graduate student majoring in biotechnology at Yunnan University. My name is Dai Bin. Dai Bin excitedly stepped forward and stretched out his hand. The camouflage on Gong Zhan's face moved. He stretched out a hand to shake it, and then looked at Wang Mingyang. Oh, hello, Captain Gong, my name is Wang Mingyang. When Wang Mingyang saw Gong Zhan looking at him, he raised his hand to say hello and smiled. Gong Zhan's eyes narrowed slightly, and although Dai Bin looked excited, he was somewhat scared and nervous when he looked at the zombies outside just now. However, this young man named Wang Mingyang, Gong Zhan, did not feel any tension, fear in him. Not simple. Why are you here? We. Dai Bin was stunned and wanted to say something. We came here to look for Dai Bin's mentor, but unfortunately, we couldn't find him. Wang Mingyang interrupted Dai Bin with a calm tone. Oh. What's your mentor's name? Gong Zhan didn't care. It didn't matter what purpose these 2 people had. He came with a mission. My tutor is Professor Gu Zemin. Dai Bin replied quickly. Who? Gong Zhan was startled and asked urgently. Professor Gu Zemin, a teacher in the Department of Biotechnology of Yunnan University. Dai Bin was stunned and said again. Gong Zhan quickly moved the rifle to his waist, reached into his jacket pocket, took out a piece of paper, and checked it again. Gu Zemin, 58 years old, academician of the Academy of Sciences, professor of the School of Life Sciences of Yunnan University. Specializing in biological brain research, he has received. Look, is he your mentor? Gong Zhan turned the paper and looked at Dai Bin, pointing his finger on a photo in the upper right corner of the document. It's him. Dai Bin looked at the familiar old professor in the photo and nodded repeatedly. Where is he? Gong Zhan asked eagerly. I don't know either. We didn't find him in the laboratory on the 3rd floor. Dai Bin shook his head, his eyes dimming quickly. The target of these soldiers turned out to be his mentor. You mean, you didn't even see the body? Well, no body was found. The teacher may still be alive. Gong Zhan frowned when he heard this. This situation was not good. No one can be seen alive, and no corpses can be seen dead, so the task is a bit difficult to handle. The teacher may be in the underground laboratory, but I don't know where the entrance is. Dai Bin looked at Gong Zhan's somewhat uncertain expression and said. Underground laboratory? Yes, this experimental building is said to have several floors of laboratories underground. but I'm not qualified enough to know the details. Dai Bin nodded, a little embarrassed. Xiao Yu, contact the headquarters and see if you can find out the specific information about this underground laboratory. Gong Zhan's eyes lit up and he looked up at the soldier on the left who was carrying a miniature radio. Yes. Captain. Xiao Yu responded in a low voice, quickly put down his backpack, turned on the micro radio, and started debugging it. Wang Mingyang's eyes lit up when he saw this radio station. When the end of the world comes, ordinary mobile phone communication signals are cut off, but traditional radio stations can still be used. In previous generations, governments used radio to announce various messages to the country. When the military goes out on operations, they usually carry this kind of miniature radio to keep in touch with the headquarters. As Xiao Yu contacted the headquarters, Gong Zhan looked at Wang Mingyang on the experimental table, stood up and walked forward slowly. A feeling of chilling came over him, and Wang Mingyang frowned slightly. Hello, your name is Wang Mingyang, right? Can you tell me your identity? Gong Zhan had a serious face and his tone was neither urgent nor slow, but it contained a will that could not be refused. Well, I'm a food delivery guy. Wang Mingyang nodded, smiled lightly, looked at the surprised Dai Bin with vague eyes, and narrowed his eyes slightly. Dai Bin met Wang Mingyang's eyes and quickly closed his slightly open mouth. Why aren't you wearing a yellow jacket when delivering food? Gong Zhan was stunned, frowned slightly, looked Wang Mingyang up and down, and asked doubtfully. If you wear it, you won't be able to get in. The security guard at the door won't let you. Wang Mingyang spread his hands, shrugged and said helplessly. Well, that's really hard for you. Gong Zhan suddenly felt a little sympathetic. It's okay. I'm used to it anyway. I take off my clothes when I go in and wear them when I go out. Wang Mingyang chuckled and waved his hand. Gong Zhan understood instantly, smiled with big white teeth, and then slowly turned around. Wang Mingyang put away the smile on his face, lowered his head slightly, and reached for the lighter and cigarette case in his pocket. Call out. A sharp dagger came from the right. Wang Mingyang's pupils shrank, and his right hand stretched out like lightning, tightly grasping the sudden dagger. Captain Gong, what does this mean? Wang Mingyang slowly raised his head, his ice-like eyes showing a hint of murderous intent in his heart. Gong Zhan did not answer, his eyes focused on Wang Mingyang's right hand holding the dagger. Wang Mingyang's entire palm was wrapped in a layer of silver-white metal, like a metal palm. The sharp dagger didn't hurt him at all. Don't worry, I'm just testing. Gong Zhan chuckled, he was sure that the young man in front of him was also an awakener. Humph. Testing. Then I'll try you too. Wang Mingyang snorted coldly, and pinched his right hand fiercely. The tactical dagger made of fine steel was like mud, and he easily crushed it. He clenched his left fist and hit Gong Zhan's face fiercely, and the latter quickly raised his arms to block. The huge force directly knocked Gong Zhan back, and his waist was against the experimental table a few meters away. Without time to put down his hands, a whip kick swept towards Gong Zhan's right brain with a whistling sound. After blocking with his right arm, he retreated to the right, and Gong Zhan pulled his body away and quickly took a fighting posture. You can try to see whether your gun is faster or my sword is faster. Wang Mingyang calmly put down his left leg, threw the crushed dagger on the ground, and glanced at the 4 soldiers who raised their rifles with a cold look. The metal covering his palm quickly turned into 4 flying swords, with the tips of the swords pointing at several soldiers. Dai Bin was stunned by this sudden change. He knew Wang Mingyang's fighting power too well. Even if those soldiers held rifles and the lethality of hot weapons was full, Dai Bin did not think that Wang Mingyang would lose. Along the way, Wang Mingyang's magical ability to control metal had already refreshed Dai Bin's cognition. Hot weapons are probably just a little brother in front of him. Put down the gun. We are just sparring. Gong Zhan seemed to feel the gradually surging murderous intent in Wang Mingyang, and quickly opened his mouth to order. Captain. A soldier did not dare to look away, staring at Wang Mingyang, hesitantly. I said, put down the gun. Gong Zhan shouted coldly, and quickly walked between several soldiers and Wang Mingyang, blocking the muzzle of the gun. Several soldiers had no choice but to lower the muzzle of the gun angrily. A wise choice. Wang Mingyang sneered, and the flying sword melted and fell into his pocket. Shall we continue? Gong Zhan raised his hand. Come on if you're not afraid of death. Wang Mingyang didn't waste words, stepped on his feet, and punched out with his right fist. The two of them quickly fought in a group, and the combination of fists and feet made a series of low and muffled sounds. The people on the side were already stunned. Gong Zhan was the captain of their special forces team, and his comprehensive fighting skills were the best in the army. He was definitely a soldier king, but now he was suppressed by Wang Mingyang, and retreated after several collisions. Chapter 89 A-Level Superpowers, King Kong Body. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He was repulsed by Wang Mingyang several times in a row, and the battle in the palace also broke out, and he was even more amazed in his heart. With a soft drink, Gong Zhan's body glowed with a golden halo. After blocking Wang Mingyang's powerful punch, he did not retreat at all, and punched the somewhat surprised Wang Mingyang. Opening his right palm to receive Gong Zhan's punch, Wang Mingyang suddenly felt a huge force coming from his palm. This is the body of an A-level superpower. Wang Mingyang looked surprised, and used the force to fly back a few meters. Haha, how about it, Mr. Wang? I'm not bad at this. Gong Zhan laughed, took off the rifle that had been hanging on his body, took off his combat uniform and threw it to a soldier, revealing his 8-pack abs, making fists with both hands and twisting his neck. Humph. The power is much greater, but unfortunately, it's not enough. Wang Mingyang let out a cold snort in his nose. Since you are using superpowers, don't blame me for being unreasonable. A dozen silver beads quickly flew out of his pocket and turned into a dozen flying swords around him, the sword tips shimmering with cold light trembling slightly. Fuck. You can control so much. Gong Zhan was stunned for a moment, and a drop of cold sweat slipped from his forehead. Weren't there just 4? Why did so many flying swords appear all of a sudden? If it's too little, I'll give you more. As soon as Wang Mingyang finished speaking, another dozen flying swords took shape and flew up. Gong Zhan's face darkened. What the hell am I thinking? I'm afraid there's something wrong with your ears. But at this point, Gong Zhan was still a little curious as to whether his own powers could withstand this flying sword. It's just a discussion, don't use so much force. Just give it a try. Wang Mingyang. How wonderful that he even asked for it. If I hadn't seen you as a soldier, I would have sieved you. Just a handful, don't blame me if you get hurt. With a thought in Wang Mingyang's mind, a flying sword drew an arc and instantly stabbed Gong Zhan's left shoulder. Gong Zhan's expression straightened and he didn't dodge. He slammed his left shoulder into Feijian. Bite. A soft sound came out, and Wang Mingyang frowned slightly. If such a sound could be made, the flying sword must not have penetrated. Sure enough, the tip of the sword flicked on Gong Zhan's shoulder, and he jumped into the air and stopped. Gong Zhan looked at his right shoulder, but the exposed skin was intact. However, the faint numbness in his right shoulder made him frown again, and he did not dare to be proud of it at all. The power of this flying sword is surprisingly great. As expected of an A-level superpower, this King Kong body can indeed be called the king of melee combat. Wang Mingyang took back the flying sword and sighed inwardly. It seemed that the special forces of the army who had captured some spiritual objects in his previous life were probably the ones in this palace battle. Why, don't continue. Gong Zhan looked puzzled when he saw Wang Mingyang put away his flying sword. There's no point in continuing the fight. A flying sword won't hurt you, but if I use my full strength, I'm afraid I won't be able to control it and I'll kill you. Wang Mingyang turned around and sat down on the experimental table, took out Huazi and lit one for himself. Gong Zhan looked constipated. He had just used his superpower and I had taken off all my clothes. You told me you were no longer interested. Captain, there's a reply from the headquarters. Xiao Yu, who was in the corner wearing headphones to communicate with the headquarters, raised his head at the right time and said. Oh, what should I say? Gong Zhan reluctantly put away his powers and turned to look at Xiao Yu. This. Xiao Yu looked at Wang Mingyang hesitantly. It's okay, just tell me. Gong Zhan glanced at Wang Mingyang and saw him looking over with curiosity. The corner of his mouth twitched, and after thinking about it, he waved to Xiao Yu. Yes. The headquarters said that there is indeed an underground laboratory under this experimental building, and the entrance is in laboratory number 109 on the first floor. Xiao Yu stood up and repeated the instructions from the headquarters. Laboratory 109, Gong Zhan thought for a while and looked at Dai Bin. I know, number 109 is the fourth room on the left of this laboratory. Dai Bin quickly raised his hand and said quickly. Let's set off immediately and find Professor Gu Zemin as soon as possible. Gong Zhan quickly gave the order and reached out to take the rifle and put it on his body, but his eyes were looking at Wang Mingyang aside. It just so happens that I also have some questions that I want to consult with Professor Gu. Let's go together. Wang Mingyang put out his cigarette butt and jumped down from the experimental table. Are you sure? I don't want anything to happen that will affect my ability to complete my mission. Gong Zhan looked at Wang Mingyang with some distrust. Don't worry. If you don't believe me, just ask Dai Bin. I took him to see Professor Gu before you. Wang Mingyang didn't take it seriously and turned his head to look at Dai Bin. Yeah, Wang Mingyang did bring me here to look for him before you guys did. It's a pity that the teacher was not found in the laboratory on the third floor. Dai Bin nodded hurriedly. As for Wang Mingyang's purpose of looking for Professor Gu, he didn't quite understand. Okay, then let's work together, just to have a little more strength. When Gong Zhan saw this, he no longer hesitated. Seeing that several soldiers were getting ready, he gestured and quickly walked out the door. Opening the door softly, Gong Zhan stuck his head out and cleared away a few zombies wandering in the corridor. He waved his hands behind him and took the lead to walk out. Several soldiers spontaneously surrounded Dai Bin to protect him, while Wang Mingyang followed Gong Zhan with a calm expression. With these special forces around, he couldn't be bothered to take action against ordinary zombies, so he was content to relax. Everyone soon walked to the door of a laboratory. Gong Zhan looked up at the door number and confirmed that it was laboratory number 109 as mentioned by the headquarters. Making a tactical gesture, Gong Zhan gently turned the door handle and made a few click sounds, but it did not open. Wang Mingyang sighed helplessly, and with a thought, the door lock melted instantly, leaving only a door handle that Gong Zhan pulled off. Forehead. Gong Zhan looked at the door handle in his hand speechlessly, feeling a little at a loss for a moment, but then he looked at Wang Mingyang, who shrugged. Gong Zhan instantly understood that this was Wang Mingyang's masterpiece. It's really convenient. Gong Zhan groaned inwardly, placed the door handle gently on the ground, and reached out to push open the laboratory door. A zombie in a white coat jumped up. A low gunshot sounded, and the zombie's head was instantly pierced. Everyone quickly walked into the laboratory. Xiao Yu ran to a cabinet in the corner and turned one of the bottles. The cabinet slowly slid open to both sides, revealing the metal wall on the back with a combination lock on it. Can this lock still work? The power is out everywhere. A soldier looked confused. Headquarters said that the lock has its own backup battery, and that the underground research room is also equipped with a generator. Jin Yu explained in a low voice while entering a long list of passwords into a small notebook. Bite, with a soft sound, the metal wall slid aside, revealing a bright elevator. Sure enough, there is backup power here. Xiao Yu showed a smile and looked back at Gong Zhan. Let's go down and have a look. Gong Zhan walked into the elevator first, and everyone filed in. There are only 2 buttons in this elevator, so Xiao Yu directly presses the down button. The elevator door closed, and everyone immediately felt the elevator descending rapidly. After what seemed like a minute, the elevator finally dinged to a stop. The metal door slowly opened, and a hall full of technology appeared in front of everyone. There were several white-haired zombies wandering in the hall, and several mutilated corpses lying at the elevator door. Chapter 94 Questions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There is also a zombie riot here. Gong Zhan had a sullen face and seemed a little irritable. Such a scene made him vaguely feel that his mission was about to fail. I guess no one will be spared. Let's find someone first, Wang Mingyang said calmly. and shot out several flying swords, quickly killing the white-haired zombies. Everyone stepped forward and all the zombies in the hall were cleared. Looking around, several people found 3 passages leading to different places. Several soldiers looked at Gong Zhan, waiting for his decision. Did the headquarters tell you where Professor Gu's laboratory is going? Gong Zhan looked at Xiao Yu. No. Xiao Yu shook his head regretfully. How about it, do you want to look for it separately? Wang Mingyang looked at Gong Zhan with an indifferent expression. Let's be safe together. Gong Ji thought for a moment and chose to act together. Wang Mingyang shrugged. The purpose of his coming here was just to ask Professor Gu a few questions. It makes no difference to him whether they are separated or not. Jian Daodu, take the left path. Wang Mingyang clicked his fingers a few times like a child, stopped at the passage on the left, and walked straight over regardless of whether others agreed or not. Gong Zhan and others were speechless, but they didn't object. Anyway, no one knew the situation here, and it didn't matter which way they took. The channel wrapped in silver metal looks full of technology. Unfortunately, there were many mutilated corpses in this passage, blood spattered everywhere, and a few zombies wandering aimlessly. Seeing this situation, everyone was actually somewhat disappointed. There may be no survivors in this underground research room. Encountering several laboratories along the way, Wang Mingyang opened the metal door casually. And the zombies inside screamed and jumped out, and the next moment they were shot through the head by a bullet. Several soldiers cooperated tacitly to clean up the zombies, but no zombie-turned-Professor Gu was found among the zombies. Similarly, Gu Zemin was not found alive in the house. When they reached the end of the passage, Gong Zhan helplessly led everyone back to the hall. Jian. What else are you ordering? Just go to the middle. Wang Mingyang repeated his old tricks, but was directly interrupted by the palace war. Several soldiers cast contemptuous looks at Wang Mingyang and walked directly to the middle passage under the leadership of Gong Zhan. Wang Mingyang touched his nose, chuckled and followed. In the middle passage, the laboratory is obviously much smaller than the one on the left. But each laboratory is larger and has more zombies, until Wang Mingyang opened the last laboratory and killed 2 middle-aged zombies in white coats. Everyone suddenly heard a faint voice that was different from the roar of zombies. Alert! Gong Zhan gave the order in a low voice, and then motioned for him to enter alone. Several soldiers quickly set up defense at the door, while a soldier pulled Dai Bin behind him and pressed against the metal wall. After everyone took their seats, Gong Zhan carefully stepped into the laboratory with his rifle raised. What you can see are several experimental tables and various instruments placed in the laboratory. Facing the door is an observation room with thick bulletproof glass, and there are still large blood stains on the glass. Gong Zhan quickly looked around, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he rushed straight to a lounge on the right. Through the half-person high glass partition, Gong Zhan unexpectedly saw 3 survivors wearing white coats inside. One of them, a thin old man, was writing and drawing in front of a table with his back to him. The other 2 middle-aged men were lying on the glass partition excitedly watching Gong Zhan, their mouths constantly opening and closing, and faint sounds could be heard. Wang Mingyang, who followed Gong Zhan into the laboratory, his eyes lit up when he saw this scene. With a thought, the metal door of the lounge opened quickly. Great, someone finally came to save us. Professor Gu, we are saved and we don't have to die. It's great. The voices of 2 middle-aged men came out. When the door opened, the 2 stumbled out, but the old man didn't even look back, and was still focusing on what he was writing. Who is that old man? Gong Zhan put down his gun and looked at the old man hesitantly. Are you here to save us? I knew the government would never give up on us. Great, get us out. It's so scary here, those people are crazy. The 2 of them didn't hear Gong Zhan's question at all, and just kept talking to themselves. Chen Zhong, come and take these 2 survivors out. Gong Zhan frowned and shouted helplessly outside. Yes. Captain. Don't worry, you are safe now, come out with me first. A soldier responded outside, quickly ran in, and without any explanation, dragged 2 middle-aged men who kept nodding and bowing and walked out. Excuse me, are you Professor Gu Zemin? Wang Mingyang walked into the house and tilted his head to look at the old man. Gong Zhan frowned slightly and followed quickly. Don't disturb me. that the gray-haired old man said impatiently without raising his head. Hello, Professor Gu, I am Gong Zhan, the captain of the Snow Owl Special Forces team of the Yunnan military region. We have to leave here quickly. If you have anything to do, can we wait until we return to the military shelter? Gong Zhan walked to the old man's side, a little anxious. I'm not going anywhere, I have to finish the experiment. That the old man raised his head and said in a deep voice with an impatient look. But Gong Zhan was anxious and wanted to say something, but the old man waved his hand like chasing away a fly and continued to lower his head. Heh! Wang Mingyang smiled, took a few steps forward, and grabbed the notebook that the old man was holding down. What are you doing? The old man stood up suddenly, but his head was dizzy. He quickly supported himself on the table, shook his head and looked at Wang Mingyang angrily. Nothing, I just want to know if you are Professor Gu Zemin. Wang Mingyang lowered his head and flipped through the notebook, his tone calm. I am Gu Zemin, who are you? Give me back my notebook. Gu Zemin was furious and reached out to grab the notebook in Wang Mingyang's hand. Unexpectedly, Wang Mingyang loosened his hand and the notebook was easily snatched away, which made Gu Zemin stunned. Wang Mingyang. What do you want to do? Gong Zhan narrowed his eyes and raised the muzzle of the rifle in his hand slightly. Nothing, since he is confirmed to be Gu Zemin, then I have a few questions that I would like to ask Professor Gu to help me answer. What do you want to ask? Gu Zemin took back the notebook, the anger on his face subsided a little, and he became a little curious about Wang Mingyang. The first question is, Professor Gu, are you doing experiments on animal brains? Wang Mingyang ignored Gong Zhan's hidden threat and asked. No comment. Gu Zemin's face was still cold, and he refused without hesitation. The second question is, are you using gray or black mice to do this experiment? Wang Mingyang didn't care, put his hands behind his back, and continued to ask. No comment. Gu Zemin still refused to answer, but his eyes were a little strange. The third question is, have those or that mice become smarter? How do you know? Gu Zemin narrowed his eyes slightly, but did not repeat the sentence no comment. Wang Mingyang let out a long sigh and looked at Gu Zemin with a complicated look. So, the fourth question, where are those or that mouse now?